Alright, YouTube, David Harry here, and this video is probably a cry for help, to be honest. What it is, I'm having problems with exporting 8K 60 frames per second H.265 from DaVinci Resolve 17.3 on Mac M1. So I'm going to show this issue now, and hopefully someone can kind of like butt in for us in the comments below and confirm as to whether or not they've seen the same problem, or if indeed they don't have this problem, because right now I just can't export at 8K60 using H.265 no matter what I do. So what I'm going to do now is just run through some basics about this project and stuff, just so we know what's going on just before I go to the export. In fact, if anybody's seen the video that I did a few days ago where I was doing some tests for playback in the timeline at 8K60 with 8K60 media and stuff, this is basically that project, and I'm just trying to export out chunks of the timeline to do kind of like render tests and time tests and stuff like that. Also as well, I'm on a MacBook Air M1, 8GB 512 gig storage. Now the 512 gig storage basically means it's got the 8 GPU cores and stuff like that. Also, the computer has only just been switched on, there's nothing else running, so this has kind of come from a cold start and what have you, so there's going to be no issues with thermals and stuff like that, or thermal throttling. Anyway, what I will do is just start going through the setup and whatnot so we can see what's going on. So as you can see, version 17.3 there of Resolve. Now let me just go to the project settings, and also as you can see there, that's 8K UHD and it is 60 frames per second. Now this clip here that I've got highlighted, or I've got the IO markers around for export, this is just a 1 minute clip. It's the stuff that I was using on that last video. As we can see, we can even see that it's playing it and stuff, so or it can see it. This is not going to be an exercise in playing, just encoding. So what I will do is just go to the inspector so we can see exactly what's going on with this media. As we can see, Apple ProRes 422 HQ 60 frames per second, and it's UHD 8K. Okay, let me just come out of there. So what I'm going to do now is just jump straight to the encoder. I'll explain a couple of things here now. So what I'm going to do is select H.265 here. And regardless of whether I use QuickTime or MP4 as the container for the codecs being used here for the audio and the video, doesn't matter. And whether I use hardware or not, it doesn't matter. But what I'm going to do, because I don't want to do 4 or 5 different tests here, because I can just assure you that it all fails on every variant that I do, I will use QuickTime and I will use the hardware encoder, only because right now I'm on a Mac, and obviously this will go out as a .mov, so that'll be cool. And also the use of the hardware accelerator is like that's meant to be one of the newer functions as well, so we'll do this as standard as possible right now. Also, I won't kind of mess around with any of the settings here. I'll leave it on auto and stuff like that. Once again, I'll just leaving the machine to do what it would naturally want to do without any alterations to the setup. Now usually obviously I would go in there and alter some stuff like bit rates and what have you, maybe alter something to do with audio and things, but right now we'll just leave it as is. Okay, now I'm going to call this, let's see, I'll just call it test 1 2 3. Okay, now what I will do here is I will throw this over into the queue. So once again, it's H.265, it's QuickTime, and it's 8K60, and everything else is set to auto. Now I will start the render off here, and I'll just explain some stuff as it's doing this. Now what will happen here, it will initiate the render as it has done here, or the export, but what it will do, it will kind of wait for some time, maybe up to 2 to 3 minutes sometimes, and it comes back with an error message. So what I'm going to do now is just speed through this, and then we'll just see what the error message is saying. Okay, so I've just kind of done a jump cut to where the actual error comes up now, but just quickly, that was actually registering as if it was doing 5 frames per second as a render on that frame count, and also the job was actually saying it was going to take 34 minutes to do, but then it errors like this. Now if you have a look at the error message, let's see, render job 1 failed as the current clip could not be processed. Then it says cannot find appropriate codec for encoding the video frame. Now I'm not entirely sure exactly what that's referring to, because when it says it's like not processed, I don't know if that's referring to the source codec or whether it's referring to the actual encoding codec. And then at the bottom it says cannot find appropriate codec for encoding the video frame. that's suggesting that H.265 isn't there, and I can say that it is for sure because I've done lower resolution exports and it's been fine. Anyways, I think there's enough information in there for people to have seen exactly what's gone on here. On the other thing as well, there's like a ton of disk space there as well, so disk space doesn't come into this or anything like that. Anyways, I would be massively appreciative if anybody could let me know in the comments as to whether or not they've seen the same thing, or if indeed they're able to export doing the exact same thing here, 8K 60 frames per second to H.265. Anyways, I'm David Harry. Thank you very much for watching this video. Take care and goodbye now.